Hello, and welcome to episode 103 of Nintendo Therapy, a show about the latest Nintendo news and rumors, as well as a celebration of all things Nintendo. My name's Kevin, and with me this week for some Nintendo Therapy is Sean
Hello, happy 2025.
and Harrison.
Yeah, happy to see you all in the new year.
Yeah, how was everybody's holiday season? Did you I'm assuming there were games that were got. Let's
There
talk about
were
that for
there
a little bit.
were too many sales on RPGs, so I added a bunch of those.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good sales out there. Some of them are still going until the 7th. Um, so jump on those.
Yeah, I'm waiting. Usually, like what I'll do with my gold points I've mentioned on here is that I'll wait until I can get a free game, like a
Mhm.
Yeah,
like it might not be a game that I want. So, um, like Lego, is it Ninjago or Ninja Go? I think it's Ninjago.
It's Ninjago.
It's
but
95.
Ninja Go makes sense too.
It's 95% off. It's
Ooh,
$2.50. So I'm thinking Lego Worlds or that game, I could get it for free. Um, I don't really want it, but a free Lego game, I feel like one is gonna be fun no matter what, even if it's like a B tier game, and it's gonna probably have like tons of content in it because it's a Lego game.
I like how
yeah.
you begrudgingly will add a game to the collection.
Well,
Like, right.
it's a free game. It's like do I want this game? Not really, but would I add it to my backlog for free? Um, and looking up the reviews, it looks like it's pretty fun. I could maybe get into it, but there's just not a free game that I want right now. But yeah, some of these deals are like 90% off, 95% off.
Mhm.
Oh, Saints Row, the collection is 90%
It's like
off.
$3.
Right,
Yeah.
but I already have Saints Row 4, and then I have Saints Row 3
Oh,
on my Steam Deck. So I'm like, I'm not gonna buy
so
it.
that's yeah. Yeah,
I'm not
there's
gonna
no
buy it.
point in double dipping there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd wait if you don't want to get something. Don't grab something just to use the points.
I
Yeah.
finally hopped on the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, which it's funny that it took me so long because Sean knows that like day 1 that the Switch launched, I was like trying to get a system together, a portable system nonetheless,
Yep.
where I could get all my Final Fantasies on one device. And at the time, I had a PSP with emulators on it. So I had Final Fantasy 1 through 9 on that PSP. And then eventually, don't remember the order, but I think Final Fantasy X HD might have come out first on the Switch, and I was like, "Oh, cool. So maybe that'll happen." And then eventually they put out 7, 8, and 9, but it took them forever to get to get 1 through 6 on there. And 12 showed up at some point. So I don't know. I waited forever to have one device where I now have Final Fantasy 1 through 12 all in one spot. And that feels really good. Um so that was the sale item that I jumped on. How about you, Sean?
I got Chernobyl Light was like 50% off because I owned some other game and they kept like sending me ads in the like little pop-up thing. So
I've
I
never
finally
heard of
watched
that.
the
That's awesome. Like if you buy
so I
one, you get a discount on the other. I guess Pikmin might have been that way. I can't remember. But yeah,
I
go
guess
on.
some of the smaller publishers do that. So they're like, "Hey, you own our other game. We have this game come out. It's 50% off." And I'm like, "I don't know what this is." And then I finally looked it up and I'm like, "Oh, so it's Fallout, but focused." So like the crafting has a point. It's not just in the game. So I was like, all right. So I added that and that Jurassic World Park Builder was like $3.
Yeah.
So I
Oh
was like,
yeah, I saw
I
that
would
one.
Yeah.
never do
Yeah. I
that.
clicked on that not knowing what it was. I thought it was like the other Jurassic Park game. I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm gonna buy this. I thought it was like a RPG game or something or whatever it was. Is there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
It,
way it's worded, it sounds like it. But I was like, you
yeah.
know what, $3. I kind of miss park builders, and this is like my thing because I liked
It's the
Roller
year of the
Coaster
park builder
Tycoon.
now because Roller Coaster
Yeah,
Tycoon is coming back too. So
It, it,
bring them
it
I was
on.
never
it's
big on.
definitely been a resurgence for sure.
So
Uh,
yeah, I got those, and I ended up getting Marvel versus Capcom physically cheap. So I was like, sure,
Have
why not?
you have you seen the numbers that Marvel Rivals is doing? They're getting
No,
like
everybody keeps telling me I gotta try it, and I'm like, I don't know.
they're getting like 400,000 concurrent players a day. Um,
Wow.
like it's ridiculous. But we'll move on. But like the key to that is a lifetime battle pass. You pay for it one time, and that's it. So
Wow.
hopefully that encourages other games to do the same because the people have spoken, and I will people like Marvel as well. That helps. Yeah. What are we talking about first today? I saw Kevin that we're gonna do that list that I wanted to do. Should we start there?
Yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead.
if you want to start there, that's a good idea. So Harrison had this idea since 2024 is over now to basically look through the decades and pick our favorite Nintendo game from 1984, 1994, 2004, 2014, and 2024. So we each went through and did that. There's a lot of overlap, a lot of similarities. So let's get started there. My pick for 1984 was it's 84 was the hardest year because it was
Yeah.
Japanese only.
Japanese
Like
only.
Nintendo hadn't really cracked outside of that country yet. So it was either arcade games, which I didn't want to do, or Japanese Famicom games. And of that list, which included things like Excite Bike and I'm trying to go off memory here. Devil World, I remember was on
Mhm.
there, which we reviewed. Um, anyway, I picked Duck Hunt, which I thought was out of all the stuff on there, the best choice.
Yeah, I went with Duck Hunt also, and
I should say
I
for anyone
totally.
listening who's saying why didn't you pick Super Mario Brothers, that was not a release that year.
That year,
So
yeah.
that's yeah, that if you're wondering, no, it wasn't an option for 84.
Sean?
Yeah, I didn't realize they actually had put Duck Hunt on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Oh yeah.
So that was the last time you could get Duck Hunt. But I mean, Duck Hunt's fun. It's frustrating, right? Because they actually made it so you couldn't shoot the dog in the home console version.
Yeah. There used to be a thing like where you could like aim at a certain part of the grass and shoot it at a certain time. I'm sure this has been discovered millions of times, but that's what we used to do. It's like you almost aim it like at where the dog is. I went with Duck Hunt also. Yeah, the other besides Devil World is like a lot of generic like pinball, tennis, golf that was released this year. And also, I know last year we did like our favorite game from every year. I have no idea if this is the same for me or not. I didn't look.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So, yeah, we have
Opinions
done
change.
we have done a best
Yeah.
of in a while, which is why I wanted to do this. 1994 was the year that was proclaimed as year of the cartridge by Nintendo. What did you have, Kevin?
I wonder if that was a jab at Sega CD because that came out the year
Oh,
before in
I think so.
1993.
I think so.
So if
that
they
would
were
be a
like,
good
"Hey,
marketing thing.
your CD's not doing too good, huh? This year's the year of the cartridge."
I think it was.
Um, so yeah, games that I saw just random selections of stuff that I saw that came out in 94 for listeners to compare is let's see, we got Super Metroid, we've got um what's on here that's a Nintendo release. I mean Mega Man 6 and Mega Man X, but those those aren't Nintendo games. Um, let's see. Super Star Wars Return of the Jedi came out that year. Super Punch Out came out that year. But my pick is a game. It was between Metroid and this, and I went with this because I actually had an attachment to it in 1994. Was Wario Land Super Mario Land 3. The
You love you
introduction of
some
Wario
Wario.
as a character. Oh no, that was Super Mario Land 2. This was his first solo game.
Yeah, this was when everything got confusing.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, I've always wondered, Wario Land 2, what is it a to? What is it a sequel from? Is it a sequel to Wario Land Super Mario Land 3, or is it a sequel to Wario Land on Virtual Boy? Because it came out after both.
Very true.
We'll never know.
Just random numbers.
I think it's supposed to be a sequel to Wario Land Super Mario Land 3. I think they're just trying to forget the Virtual Boy ever happened, but
Yeah,
whatever.
I don't know. Maybe they just threw 2 on there. I was like, "Ah, it's already in production." Just yeah.
Uh, Sean, what was your 94?
I mean, is it really surprising it's Donkey Kong Country?
Mhm.
What other game of relevance came out in '94 really?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
Well, I Super Metroid I think is worth
I
mentioning in
like
the same
Super
breath, but
Metroid, but if I had to pick, it's gotta be the original DK.
If I'm
Nickelodeon
playing this
Guts.
game correctly, it's Donkey Kong Country. The game I want to pick overall is NBA Jam. I think NBA Jam might be like just the most, uh, like one of the most influential games of this year. And I had it. I had it for multiple Nintendo consoles and Sega Genesis. I think I had it like like 3 times. Um, Donkey Kong
Didn't they
Country, I feel
briefly
like
try to bring that back,
di-
like, a couple years ago? Didn't they try to bring NBA Jam back, or am I imagining that?
I don't know. They should.
That
The,
does
the,
sound vaguely familiar.
they do have a game on Switch called NBA it's basically NBA Jam. It's a 3-on-3 game. NBA backyard NBA something. But it's basically NBA Jam. They should bring it back.
Okay.
Um yeah, yeah. But huge game for gaming. Huge year for gaming. I think over 200 Super Nintendo games were released in '94. So it was definitely like
That sounds about
year of the cartridge. Moving on, um, 2004, not me personally. This one's actually kind of tough for me. 2004 is considered by a lot of people the best year of gaming, um, just in general.
Yeah, yeah, it's always on
1998
the
is floated around a lot as well because you got Ocarina of Time, Metal Gear Solid, like just
1080,
so many in
1080
'98.
snowboarding, Quest
Yeah, we'll
64.
get to that later. um,
2004, I do see pop up a lot, though, when they make
yeah,
those, "All these games came out that one year" posts.
Right.
yeah. It's also worth mentioning that 2004, Nintendo had 3 systems that they were making games for. We had GameCube, DS, and Game Boy Advance,
Mm.
all
Madness.
in the mix. So my pick for 2004, like you guys said, it was a tough year to pick from, but I picked Pikmin 2. Um, did everything Pikmin 1 did, but better. And yeah, I love me a Pikmin game. So Pikmin 2.
I went with Pikmin 2 also, just
Oh, you
I'm
did?
basing that more off my recent playthrough because I didn't play it when maybe I did play it when it came out. I don't know, but it's a really great game, and it's held up, so that's what I went with.
And I didn't have a good one for this year, actually. So I went with Pokemon Fire Red Leaf Green. Even though it's a Gen 1 remake, it's the one that I went through every game on the list. The other one,
Well, yeah, as big a year as it was for games, Nintendo published didn't really have a lot of standouds. You had like
No, no.
Metroid Zero Mission, which was a remake. I'm going down the Nintendo published list right now. They re-released a bunch of NES games on the Game Boy Advance in the
Oh,
Classic
yeah, okay.
series.
Yeah.
They had Mario Golf Advanced Tour. Um, yeah, not a Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Right. So
What
so
else?
that's
F-Zero GP Legend.
that's what I'm going with. Fire Red Leaf Green. The other one that I want to put on here is Tony Hawk Underground 2, which is just phenomenal. And I did play it on GameCube. So there's that. Speaking of uh, years Nintendo did not release lots of games. 2014.
Yeah.
2014
2014 was
only
Yep.
light.
only 25 for the Wii U and 57 for 3DS. Only 82 games were released overall in 2014. Do
Jeez.
we all have the same one?
I went with Mario Kart 8. It's kind of hard to deny the legacy of a game that is still being updated over 10 years later now. So that was my pick, Mario Kart 8.
I didn't go with Mario Kart 8, but I did look it up. So it sold 76 million copies in 10 years between two consoles.
Yep.
Like, that's insane.
One of
It's
the
a
best
lot.
of all time.
I went with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze because that was hands down my favorite Wii U game, and I still think it's the best Donkey Kong Country. So,
Ooh. Hot take.
highly
Hot take
recommend.
on a cold game.
Definitely
Uh,
recommend playing it if you haven't, because it's good stuff.
I went with Mario Kart 8 by default. I don't know if there's any other game from this year that I could really go with. Didn't play it until like 2018. Uh,
That's fair.
2014. 2014. I was. I mean, I think from like 2014 to 2017. This includes like my grad school full-time work years. I think it was Animal Crossing only. Like there
Mhm.
was a
Okay.
few years, there was a couple years um in my semi-older adulthood where I had no time. I think it was just Animal Crossing New Leaf, which is one of my favorite games. Came out
Yeah, I think it's
2013.
still the best Animal Crossing.
Right, right. And what is your favorite game from this year? Nintendo game, Kevin.
From 2024?
2024.
Yeah, so
Last year, I'm
this
sorry.
exercise has taught me that years that end in 4, I guess, are slow years for Nintendo because '04 was slow, 14 was slow, and we all know 2024 was kind of slow. So I don't know if remakes should count, but I'm doing it. My favorite game that Nintendo released this year, last year now, was Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. I liked it more than Echoes of Wisdom. What else was out there? You know, Mario March of the Minis. You had Princess Peach Showtime, Luigi's Mansion 2. Um, yeah, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door was my favorite release they put out.
I kind of have a recency bias because I've been playing mine a lot lately. So I went with the Nintendo World Championship NES edition because for
Okay.
whatever reason I've been playing it and it's kind of got its hooks in me. As
Well,
much as I
again,
like
because it's
Echoes of
also a
Wisdom.
slow year. So, like in any other year, you probably wouldn't have picked that. But
Well,
it was
I just picked it up and started playing it again, and I got really into it. And I mean, it's not. Did you guys ever play NES Remix?
yeah on the Wii U.
Yeah, those were better, but these are still
Okay.
pretty fun. So
Yeah, they
I
should
don't
have
know.
continued the remix series. I didn't end up
I
buying World Champions because of that exact reason. I was like, I prefer remix.
I would only get it if it's on sale. Honestly, I mean, it's fun, but you're gonna get through it really fast. So
Alrighty.
Wow. Okay. So remaster from 2004 for Kevin. Um, a game from when was World Championships? 1980. What? I don't know.
might
For
have been
me,
90.
it is Echoes of Wisdom. Uh,
Okay.
Which is a great game.
right. I think so. I had to play it again to actually nail it down. But I think I would go with like with like a solid 7. Not soft, not hard. It's a
Yeah.
solid 7 out of 10. Would definitely replay it again. I've said it before on this podcast, and it's very true. A top 10 Zelda game is still a really, really good game. And I think that's where it
Yeah.
kind of stands. I think so. Is it top 5 for me? I haven't played all the Zelda games through, but
Well, I know for a fact it's not a top 5 for me.
it's probably
Yeah,
Um,
it's
it's
not
probably
top
top
5
10
for me.
all said and done. And it's not like my favorite Zelda that I played last year. Like that would be Wind Waker. I think. I think Wind
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
I
that
Waker.
had
was
to
my exact review the week I finished it. I think I literally said on this podcast, I was like, "It's not a top 5 Zelda game, but it's not a bottom 5 Zelda game. It's somewhere in the middle." Was like exactly what I said.
yeah, because as far as what we played last year, like, Minish Cap was my favorite Zelda game I played last year.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So,
I still need to
Minish Cap's a
finish
great
that.
game.
So,
Echoes of Wisdom was good, it's just I don't know, I started playing it, and then I had a huge gap, and then I stuck with it and finished it. And it was fun, but it didn't, like, keep me going like a Zelda
Mhm.
game usually does.
yeah, yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here, but the exploration, all the Zelda goodness was there. But I feel the same way. I mean, of course, Breath of the Wild, I finished and I restarted. It's just one of those games where I finished it, started a new profile, restarted it again. So we
Yeah, I
did.
think we've all been chasing that Breath of the Wild experience for, the whole life cycle of the Switch. It's been very rare that you get that experience that you're just nonstop playing a game, you know?
We did 5 decades, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Sean, you first, because I think I know the answer. Out of your 5 games that you mentioned, which one is your favorite?
It's probably the original Donkey Kong Country, even though Tropical Freeze is a better game, but I have so much more nostalgia for the other one from getting the silly little promotional VHS in the mail, and I had the guide and, like, the graphics at the time were mind-blowing, and so I think for nostalgia, it's a little bit above Tropical Freeze for me.
Okay. All right, Kevin.
I think out of the 5 games I have here, I think Pikmin 2 would be my favorite of the lot. It's either Pikmin or Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, but that game is so short, it's hard to honestly pick it. It's so short. Like, you could finish it in
But
one
but
sitting.
you but you
Um,
play it a so
what's that?
you play it a lot, so it makes sense if you went with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But Pikmin 2, I know a lot of people, for them, it's their favorite Pikmin game. I actually think Pikmin 3 might be my favorite Pikmin game, but it's the fact that so many people pick it as the best Pikmin game, should speak to its quality. So, yeah, Pikmin 2.
And this has been an interesting. I know it was my idea. It's been an interesting experiment because looking at my 5 games, there's no like real like like there's no top 10 out of these 5 games for me. So I'll just go with
Okay.
Pokemon Fire Red Leaf Green again. Just to be fair,
Yeah.
because I don't want to go with one of the non-Nintendo games that might have still been popular on Nintendo consoles. I had one more question for you guys because last week Kevin and I did our list of games that we finished, and I know Sean, I want
Yeah.
to hear some of yours. Something I was thinking about. Um, is there is there any game that you two will finish every year? Like how whatever you consider to be starting and finishing. Is there any game that every year you'll play at least once?
Yeah.
There's a couple, yeah. I don't know about finish every year. I definitely play Mario 64 every single year. There was a long chunk where I played Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask multiple times in a year. Like, I think I've finished Ocarina of Time start to finish, no joke, at least 15 times, maybe 20. Um, the the game I mentioned last week, I play Mario Land Super Mario Land 2 6 golden coins every single year. Again, because it's a really short game and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Um and A Link to the Past is probably in there too. I probably play that every year.
Yeah, Link to the Past, I try to play every year. Um, Donkey Kong Country 1 at least. Arkham Asylum, now that that's another one I got on sale on Switch. But I feel like ever since that game came out, I played that one once a year. For whatever reason, I jump back into that. The Souls games, I think, have fallen into that, even though that's tough to do every year.
Yeah.
But
I want to try to start a tradition of doing Luigi's Mansion every Halloween, but I haven't gotten there yet. I did it last Halloween,
I
but
did the last
we're
two.
not.
I think that'll be
Yeah.
mine because it's a short enough game that I can finish it in 1 month.
Hmm.
I thought
yeah,
about it because I mentioned a short hike last week. And a short hike is like it's like an hour, 1 or 2 hours, and it's
Hmm.
definitely a game that I'll play at least once a year because it's almost like watching like one of your favorite movies. It's so
yeah.
short. Same with like Inside. I'll play once a year now because it's so short and it's phenomenal. Um, so I was just thinking about that when we did our list, and I wasn't wasn't quite done with it. So
I feel like Final Fantasy VII is almost on that list. I play that game at least like I'll say like every other year. I start to get like a craving for it and I head back to it. So that's probably high up on the list of games I've finished the most times.
Yeah, I have a few that in recent years have snuck in, I guess.
hmm.
Alrighty. So I like one of the topics Harrison put in the notes here that I want to talk about because I was actually thinking about this week too. Is so we already talked about the rumors for Mario Kart coming to the Switch 2 right away and having Mario Kart 9, possibly also having Mario Kart 8 like Ultimate Edition where it's got all the DLC there. Harrison wrote in here, what should Nintendo do with Smash Brothers? Do you want to talk more about the question, Harrison?
Smash Brothers and Mario Kart have always had lots of similarities. Of course, even though like Mario Kart came out for SNES, I always consider that to be an N64 like title. I don't know why, but like
Okay.
yeah, but I always see these two titles together, and if you start looking at the other similarities, they're very, very similar. They both only had one release on Switch. They were both two of the best-selling games on Switch. Both of them basically had their ultimate versions on Switch. I mean, Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8, which was released in 2014, as we mentioned. That's basically like the ultimate version with all the DLC, all the tracks, and
Right.
both of these games with DLC have just had a extreme longevity. I mentioned Mario Kart 8, 2014, Smash Ultimate 2018. Smash Ultimate is 35 million worldwide. It is the third best-selling game on Switch. It is the 17th best-selling game of all time. Um, so, um, Kevin, I'll shoot it over to you now. Smash Ultimate, 89 characters, and we know for a fact it will be backwards compatible on Switch 2 day one. How does Nintendo get consumers, old consumers and new consumers interested in a new Smash game?
See, I don't know. One thing, because I did skip the Wii version, the Wii U, the Wii. God, The Switch version. You know what? I skipped them all. The last Smash Brothers I really played was Melee, to be honest with you, on GameCube, and we played the heck out of that game in high school. But um, the reason I dipped out of the franchise was I wasn't a fan of how many characters they started adding in the Wii version and then the Wii U version and now the Switch version. Is I prefer a smaller roster, and I know I'm in the minority here, but I prefer when there's not duplicates of characters who have the same move set. I prefer something more like a Street Fighter, even though those games sometimes get into duplicate characters as well. Something like Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, every character is unique except maybe Ken and Ryu, you could argue. Um, but I think you know what I'm saying. I prefer a smaller cast where each character is unique and there for a reason. Um, so I don't know what you do. I would definitely, I was thinking about this the other day, buy if they put on the Switch 2 like an ultimate deluxe version of the one they just made where it has like all of the DLC characters included right away, right from the jump. I don't know if they can do that licensing wise if they need the DLC income to pay for them or something, but that's what would get me to buy this game is if I could have all the DLC characters included. As far as a future game, um, I don't know. And I also realize how crazy that sounds where I say I want a game with a smaller roster, but I also want all the characters you had for this game. So I think I'm just like everyone else where I'm like, I don't really know what I want. It's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward.
Sean?
I'm kind of Smash Brothers out at this point. Uh, I play Ultimate maybe twice a year now
Yeah, me
when
too.
I get together with people. Uh, I think the community kind of turned me off to it because there's just it's so many people that act like it's this hardcore fighting game. And it's like, well, if we're gonna play, we can only play on this one stage, and
Yep.
we can't use items. And it's
Yep.
like, well, that's everything that makes it Smash Brothers. So why don't we just play a different fighting game at that point?
Yep.
So I don't know. I think the community end of it's gotten me out of it, and I don't think the online's very good. Like Mario Kart, you at least can do full races. This is basically, I think it's just 2 minute matches or something like. I haven't played online very often, but it's just I don't know. Not
That is
much
a good
there.
answer though for the question of like how to make it appeal to how to make the next one appeal to customers is probably beef up their online modes
Definitely.
and make it more appealing for online play.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think they have a casual, but I wouldn't even know if it was. Because everybody is so good at that game that plays it all the time. I'm not that good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would definitely revamp the online, and my online experiences have been the same. Have been very limited and not so good. There's really only one Nintendo game where I've had good online experiences, and that's Splatoon, and even that is like just decent. I'll say it's decent
What about
experience.
what about Animal Crossing? No?
Animal Crossing could be better in a thousand different ways. We can't even do
Oh,
voice.
I thought I was just talking about like good interactions with people. Okay, I see
Oh,
what you're saying.
it didn't. Oh, yeah, yeah. The interactions are fine. I'm like interactions on Animal Crossing. I would say are for me personally are like 98% positive, which is really really good. It's extremely good. Like
Mhm.
I've of course if any with any game if you played enough like there's a couple of bad people out there, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I think something that you mentioned, Kevin, and something that I've seen thrown around is that maybe they need to go back to um like an origin story, or maybe they need to go back to something that's more like an original N64 Smash Brothers game.
Yeah,
I just
something that's more focused.
Maybe even
Yeah.
try to keep it to only Nintendo characters. Like it's
Yeah,
hard to say that cuz even the first game had like uh what was in there? Ness was isn't Isn't Earthbound just published by Nintendo, but it's not developed by them or something? Like, I don't know.
Sure,
Yeah, they have a
and
few
there's other
gray
characters as
area
well
things.
that aren't Nintendo. Um,
But
or
yeah,
what
the
they did.
novelty of like Sonic and Mario being in a game and it's like, oh, they can beat each other up. It's like, yeah, I don't care anymore. Like,
All right, so the roster for the original game, you had your original characters and then 4 unlockables. You had Mario, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Link, Pikachu, Fox, Kirby, and Samus, all Nintendo, so good. And then the unlockables were Luigi, Jigglypuff, Captain Falcon, and Ness. And now I'm going to look into Ness's Earthbound here. Let's see if that's developed by no, yeah, that's HAL Laboratory, which I guess you could also argue for Kirby. So never
it's
mind. I'll
Kirby.
take that
Yeah.
back. Yeah,
I
Yeah,
thought
or
Captain Falcon
make
was
a Nintendo versus everyone else game. Yeah.
something like that. You could do that too, like
yeah.
I don't know, Nintendo versus Sega, something like that, like a riff on
Oh,
Smash.
you know what?
Yeah.
This I made a post about this on Blue Sky. This is kind of a good opportunity to drop. I literally had a dream about a game that doesn't exist and I want it now, and it was a Smash Brothers type game. So I dreamed that they made a Smash Brothers type game, but it was a turn-based tactics game.
Ooh,
So you put together a team of Nintendo characters or whatever from that ultimate lineup. You put together a team and you would then fight somebody else on a board in a tactics style game. And I'm like, now I want that game. So they could do something drastic like that,
I'd
but that
go with
probably
that.
wouldn't be called Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting, actually.
Yeah, that would be cool, but Smash Brothers it has to be a fighting game. Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely has to be a fighting game. Um,
Well, you could call it Smash Brothers Tactics and have it be like a spin-off.
I I think this is gonna be. I predict this is gonna be an issue, but it's an issue that they've already spent years thinking about already. It's just that, like, if you're getting the Switch 2, if you're an old player or a new player that can play Smash Ultimate day one, and perhaps you already have it, I think it's a big issue because this is it's going to be 7 years after it was released, and I'm sure they're looking towards what is next. Masahiro Sakurai has not um, developed a game, has not directed a game since Smash Ultimate. Apparently, for years now, he's been working on a new game. The last 3 games he worked on were Smash Ultimate, Smash for Wii U, whatever that was called, and Kid Icarus Uprising. So I'm wondering if Sakurai is working on either a new Smash game, a new Kid Icarus game, I hope so, or one of the million Kirby games that are out there, because that's basically what he's worked on in his history. Smash.
I'd go with Kid Icarus, honestly. I think Smash, like, he's so done with that, I think, at this point. So,
Kid Icarus would be awesome. And why did we not have a Kid Icarus on Switch? Um,
Yeah, it's weird because the franchises they chose not to bring to that system are weird because it seems like they were touching on everything they could. So it's almost
yeah,
like Star Fox feels ignored at this point. F-Zero ignored, Pilot Wings ignored, Punch Out ignored. Well, I guess Punch Out became Arms, but yeah.
Punch Out became Arms, and Arms was not so good.
interesting, but
Yeah.
didn't do
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, yeah. I would hope it's Kid Icarus, and then if it's Kid Icarus, like, what kind of game is it? Because Uprising
Yeah.
was so different. Uh, so oh yeah. Uh, we're at 40 minutes. Um, Switch 2. I wanted to share my opinion on this, if we could.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're going to be getting the rumor is we're going to be getting the announcement either on the 7th or the 15th. So go ahead. I'm just like, I'm rumored out at this point. I'm like, you're all just saying the same stuff over and over again. Like,
Well, I'll
It's
mention it to
happening.
yeah, I'll mention it for listeners to update if you haven't seen it, if you're not a sick freak and you're not on like Twitter and YouTube all day, like me. But Nintendo in July of 2023, which they just made public a few days ago, they filed a patent. Basically, it's a 38-page patent. I read through some of it. It talks about AI technology that is used for upscaling, similar to the DLSS technology on PlayStation. So basically, it's 38 pages talking about upscaling. And then on the Switch 2 subreddit, there was a leak of a motherboard, and the motherboard looks extremely similar to what we have found out, the mock-ups that we have seen. It has two USB ports. It's a similar shape and size. It has one game cart, which we speculated that the Switch 2 would only have one game cart, but we weren't sure. Um, and then I wanted to mention this because a lot of people online are being reactionary, of course, as they always are. Um, and they're saying that, well, if this is the motherboard, then the Switch 2 is not going to be powerful enough, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to mention this because, one, we can't know the full potential just looking at a picture of a motherboard, even if you're like a tech genius, which most people on Twitter are not. Secondly, this Nintendo will always have the luxury of working on their own home console, so they'll always have that luxury of having it just at home in their hands all the time, and it fits our expectations of having PS4 Pro capabilities, and upscaling in handheld mode as well. So, last part, do we move on? There's been leaks like every day, every few days. Me personally, again, since the majority of people are not on Twitter and YouTube all day, I don't think this affects Nintendo too much. But Kevin,
no, I agree.
do you think these leaks should speed up Nintendo's timeline at all?
I don't think they should. I don't know, like, again, what Nintendo's going to do. But just like you said, I say the same thing when it comes to like, following like superhero movies or things like Star Wars and stuff, and people be like, "Oh, the whole movie's already been spoiled on the internet." And it's like, "Yeah, but the average person isn't looking at any of that." You know what I mean? Like the average person hasn't even thought about the fact that Nintendo is even putting out a new system. And if you're talking about like average Nintendo fan, even then I feel like they're not following every single leak. Like you said, they're just looking at, hey, what games are coming out soon? And they're waiting for official announcements. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to affect anything except for people like us who just can't get enough and are just constantly devouring every piece of news we can.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo does their own thing, so doesn't
I
matter how
do
many leaks
believe
they
they're
have.
going to reveal it soon, though. The rumors of the 7th or the 15th.
Yeah, yeah, and my prediction is they'll do like an official big reveal, of course. But I bet they'll go to Twitter and say just casually, join us this day, this time for you know details on our new system.
Yeah, I think
That
they'll drop the name officially confirm at Switch 2. It'll be like Switch 2, maybe a release date, and then it'll say like join us for our next direct or something.
I hope it's not Switch
Yeah.
2. I hope they just mess with everyone and they call it. something that's not the Switch 2. Just, just to troll people at this point.
All right, so moving on to the spotlight game. This week we played 1080 Snowboarding, originally released on the Nintendo 64. It came out April 1st, 1998 in North America and February 28th, 1998 in Japan. It was added to the Switch Online service in December of 2023. And it was part of a big boom of snowboarding games we had back then. We had Snowboard Kids, we had SSX, we had Amped, we had Cool Boarders, we had the mini game in Final Fantasy VII, we had a mini game in Sonic Adventure. Uh, just put snowboarding in everything. That's what they did back then. One thing I want to try to do this week when I'm talking about this game is I also want to address a podcasting pet peeve I have because I listen to a lot of video game podcasts. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when people don't really offer anything in their criticism. So I'm going to try to be better about that moving forward in 2025 now. I hate when when you'll listen to people who will literally just say like it's bad. I hate it. It's no good. It's not fun. Like, these things that I'm going to try to take all those out of my reviews because they offer nothing in as far as insight goes. So, 1080 snowboarding. Um I I played it. It's everything I remember it being. This is very much a pre Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game for sure. And the bad criticism I was saying a second ago would just say the controls suck. Here's a better way of saying that. The controls rely too much on control stick rotating while you hold other buttons. And it's very awkward. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater, maybe it's hindsight being 2020, um, showed us how tricks should be imported that way. Do more like a fighting game combo. Whereas this game wants you to hold Z and R and rotate the control stick 3 times. And that's just awkward. And you never know if you're doing it right. You never know if you made a complete rotation, and no good. So that's the first spiel I have about the game. How about you guys? Get your 2 cents in before I keep talking.
Right, I would agree. I would agree with everything you said there. I said that I don't like the controls, but I do feel like there's a lot of ambition that's there that I give credit for, because yes, they didn't really have a good baseline to go off of what this game should look like and feel like on N64, and I think even though this is not a snowboard sim, I do think there is plenty of people that would enjoy playing um, a snowboarding game that might be a little bit more rewarding in that sense. But I don't know. I don't know if 1080 is more like, if it's more like frustrating, the controls, and it's frustrating, and then when you land a trick, it feels good because okay, you finally landed it. But there are, I don't know about snowboarding, but there are skateboard sims today, which have difficult controls and make it very fulfilling when you do land it because it's more of a simulation. Um,
Well, it's funny too because this is split between trying to be a trick game and a racing game too. It's got like the
Mhm.
2 different modes.
right, right,
I
and
feel
that's something.
like the racing is what they focused on,
Hmm.
so the trick part of it feels half baked, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Right.
Because I just raced when I played it. I didn't even attempt to do tricks because it just
Right.
wasn't happening.
Yeah, the
Well,
there's
I mean,
like
I think a good comparison point is Wave Race, though, where you could do tricks in Wave Race, but it was obviously a racing game.
Yeah.
However, the tricks were more intuitive in that game where I would do them while I was doing like a racing tournament and not be afraid at all that I was going to lose position or anything.
right.
Right.
And I think like something that's more like Snowboard Kids, maybe more of like an arcade style. I want to say is like that as well, where you're doing tricks maybe more it's more like passively, and it's
Yeah,
nice. It
just a
feels
showboat.
good. Uh, yeah, I mentioned that the amount of game modes are impressive. I do think there's a lack of focus there, as you both mentioned, like the tricks and the racing together. All of these games could use a campaign mode, or more of a campaign mode or a story mode in these games. That's something that I would like to see more of. Like if I were to review this game initially when it came out, that's something that I would have wanted to see is, perhaps you have your own character or you pick a character and you can level them up. And there's more of an
Or more
incentive to
a
just go through all
Omaha
of these
career
games.
mode.
Career mode, campaign, story, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. Uh, Definitely uh, would want to see that. I think the graphics look great. The lighting sets a great mood, and it's phenomenal. The drum and bass music is catchy. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the game conveys the speed really well, has really good snow and ice effects, which I thought was cool. Which is the thing I'm noticing with the N64, like sports racing stuff, is they did a really good job on details a lot of the time. But I
Right.
feel like the learning curve is a little too steep because I can only get to the third race. It didn't matter who I picked, and I didn't realize till Kevin put it in the notes that the boards all have stats, which doesn't make sense to me because wouldn't the riders have stats? But anyway,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that was
continued
my
the third
next note. You
race.
took it from me. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
I try.
That's a good point. But Kevin, you go ahead. That's a good point,
Yeah,
though.
no.
Yeah.
That was just Sean said it perfectly. Like you want to use the board you want to use. Like if it's got like an image on it or whatever, a design that you like, that's the board you want to use. So why make the board have the stats and not the rider? That's crazy.
Yeah, but like with ambition, like I do kind of like that sort of idea because we do see games like that where your player gets the stats or the levels or the buffs, but there's no reason why your board or your equipment couldn't offer a temporary buff, and there's no
Well, buff
reason
is one
why
thing, but it can set you
Yeah.
back as well.
and there's no
Oh, you picked
reason
the wrong
why you
board.
couldn't change the cosmetics of that board as well. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could have your stats and have it look like whatever it wants to be. But back in 1998, um, I mean, like I think this was a very solid game. 1998, there were 78 games that were released in North America for N64. 30 of the 78 were either sports games or racing games. Um,
Was that
super.
like the last big sports time for a Nintendo system?
I think it's like yeah, I think for Nintendo, yes, and then I think sports games peaked in the early 2000s before there was licensing. The
Mhm.
licensing is really what killed it, I think, because it just killed the overall competition. And then the introduction of live service and microtransactions.
Yeah.
But of course, this is 98. We mentioned this is Ocarina of Time. This is considered to be one of the best years of gaming. And how did snowboarding become so popular in the 90s? Was it the skateboarding culture that helped it, or was it something else? Because I don't have a
I
good
think
answer about
Was that the
this.
first year it was in the Winter Olympics?
it was
Um
that or the X Games. I feel like the X Games might have been
that
big then.
Yeah, that
Hmm?
too. I don't know. These are all half memories.
Yeah. Because skateboarding culture is taking over at this point. It doesn't peak here. It just keeps going up and up for a while.
I think
So
the 90s, I think at that point there was also a lot of like, we don't do things the way your generation did, old man type
Yeah.
of attitude.
yeah,
So like, oh, you ski, I snowboard. Like, oh, you roller skate, I roller blade.
exactly.
Oh, like, we just wanted to mix it up.
I think so.
Yeah, I think for the time, though, it held up really well. I mean, it's clearly a game from 1998, but it's not, like, an unplayable mess. So, I mean, it really has a lot going for it,
If anyone
but
hasn't seen the meme, by the way, games from 1998, like we said, Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, Banjo-Kazooie, Resident Evil 2, Xenogears, Crash Bandicoot Warped, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Spyro the Dragon, Metal Gear Solid, Parasite Eve. Um, I'm scrolling through a list right now. Turok 2, Seeds of Evil, Suikoden 2, the first Mario Party, just
it
absolute
was a big year.
crazy year,
I,
yeah.
I did not hear Quest
Pokemon Yellow,
64 once.
Sonic Adventure. Man, this list just keeps going on and on with standouts. So yeah,
And
I
it's
didn't mean
and
to
it's
derail
it's
us.
a, it's a lot of
I was just thinking maybe somebody listening is saying, "Well, tell me why 98 was a big year." So there you
yeah
go.
yeah, and it's a big year for snowboarding. It was everything snowboarding, and then like the the I guess it's pretty much mostly Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but skateboarding games became more and more popular into the mid 2000s. And snowboarding, that was kind of it because I didn't look up the numbers for the GameCube game, but the GameCube game did not
Oh,
do
yeah.
that well.
No,
1080,
1080 Avalanche, I forgot existed, but apparently it is another series like Wave Race that went to the GameCube to die. Um, yeah, I don't
X
know.
Enter the Gecko came out in 1998, which by the way, they announced that collection. When are we getting that Gex collection?
it
That was over a
wasn't
year
delayed.
ago. I didn't see a
I
delay.
guess. I thought it was
I mean,
supposed to be out
it
by now.
must have been,
I,
but
I swear, like I heard something recently about that, but it's probably delayed since we don't have it. Yeah, that's interesting how like how a game can have lots of momentum and then it's like, okay, we release another game and nobody really cares. Like I think snowboarding quickly died out. Um,
Yeah, because I was interested in Steep when they were gonna have a Switch port, and then they
uh,
canceled that, and that was it. And
oh
I was like, "Alright, well, there goes my brief interest in getting back in the genre." So,
yeah, that would have been an interesting port. I wonder if that would have looked
I
good.
think they could have made it work, honestly, with the stuff they've done on the system since then, but, I mean, ranking-wise, I put it at number 60. It's not a bad game. It's not an amazing game, but I think it holds up for the most part. It's just your mileage is gonna probably depend how into snowboarding you are.
I like this game. It probably gets a few nostalgia points for me. I'll put it at 38 because I put Wave Race at 37. I feel like Wave Race in most aspects is a better game. It's very similar. I played 1080 more as a kid, but I feel like Wave Race is a better game. So
No, I think we played Wave Race more on top of it being a better game, so
yeah, Kevin.
yeah, I ranked it down at 62, which just coincidentally put it right below F-Zero X on the Nintendo 64. And that's usually how I rank these games. I just keep scrolling down the list where I'm like, would I rather play this game? Yes. Would I rather play this game? Yes. So goes all the way down to I would rather play F-Zero X than 1080 snowboarding, but I'd rather play 1080 snowboarding than the Super Nintendo game Amazing Hibiki, which was that 4-player melee game.
All right.
Um, so that's what it's in between right now. 62. All right. So let's find out what we're going to be playing next time and giving our thoughts on. All right, we got a double pack here. So I'll read you the actual titles. So I paired together Caveman Ninja on the Super Nintendo and Joe and Mac 2 Lost in the Tropics because, according to what I see, Caveman Ninja is actually Joe and Mac 1, which we'll look into for next week. But I guess Caveman Ninja is Joe and Mac, and then Joe and Mac 2 is
What?
obviously Joe and Mac 2. So don't know why it's titled that way. Maybe we'll find out next week. Who knows? Um, so the two Super Nintendo Joe and Mac games.
No, you're right. Also known as Caveman Ninja, Joe and Mac. All right.
Cool.
All right,
How
so
about
we
that?
got
Well, Joe and Mac week.
those coming. We'll talk about those next week. In the meantime, you guys can find us on Blue Sky. You can find us all over the place. Just search Nintendo Therapy. And if you can't find us there, email us and let us know where you couldn't find us, and I'll put us there. Our email is nintendotherapypod@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. And be sure to like and subscribe. I don't say that often enough. I try not to beg our listeners, but like and subscribe and leave a review. I haven't said that in like 100 episodes. Leave a review because it helps other people find the podcast. It definitely helps the algorithm when people are searching for Nintendo podcast. If you have recent reviews, it helps your podcast show up. So leave us one of those. And other than that, we'll see you next week to talk more Nintendo news. Maybe we'll have a Switch 2 announcement. Who knows? They'll probably announce it as soon as we're done recording next week. But the rumor is that it might be getting announced on Tuesday. So we'll see. See you then.